In the ancient Hermetic teachings, one phrase echoes across the ages like a divine key, whispered through the corridors of time. As above, so below. As below, so above. This is the principle of correspondence, the second of the 7 Hermetic laws, and perhaps one of the most poetic and misunderstood. At first glance, it might seem abstract, even metaphorical, but to the initiated, it is nothing less than a profound map of reality. It tells us that the macrocosm and the microcosm are reflections of one another, that the structure of the universe is mirrored in the structure of the self, and vice versa. In this cosmic mirroring, we find the bridge between spirit and matter, thought and form, the divine and the mundane. So what does it really mean to say, as above, so below? Imagine a vast fractal, infinitely complex, yet recursively patterned. Galaxies spiral in the heavens, and deep within your own DNA, the same spiral unfolds. The golden ratio seen in the unfolding petals of a flower is also present in hurricanes, seashells, and the arms of galaxies. The sacred geometry found in the movements of planets echoes the proportions of your own body. The ancients knew this, and so they studied the stars not merely to predict weather or war, but to understand the soul. This principle asserts that the laws that govern higher realms, spiritual, mental, cosmic, are also at play in the lower realms, physical, emotional, earthly. What happens in the unseen world influences the seen, and vice versa. There is no real separation, only degrees, only layers. This is why ancient mystics studied the heavens to understand human destiny, and why the temple walls of Egypt were covered not only with gods and glyphs, but also with precise mathematical and astronomical diagrams. To apply this principle is to awaken to the truth that everything is connected. The way we treat our bodies affects our minds. The way we speak to others shapes our spiritual vibration. The energy we put into the world is reflected back to us in synchronicities, signs, and outcomes. There is no action that exists in a vacuum. All is correspondence. Every thought, emotion, and deed sends ripples through the layers of existence like a drop of ink blooming in water. But the principle of correspondence is not only poetic, it is deeply practical. Once we accept that what is above is reflected in what is below, we begin to realize that the external world is a mirror of the internal. Our relationships, our health, our environment, they're not just circumstances, they are symbols. They reflect back to us the state of our consciousness, our beliefs, our unresolved emotions. A cluttered home might mirror a cluttered mind. Chronic conflict in our lives might reflect inner division, a war within. This is where true self-inquiry begins, not just by meditating or journaling, but by observing your life as a sacred text. What patterns are repeating? What kinds of people do you attract over and over again? What triggers you, and why? These are not random. These are messages from the lower world pointing upward, from the manifest to the archetypal, from the symptom to the source. In this way, correspondence becomes a diagnostic tool for the soul. The ancient Hermeticists believed that by understanding the lower, we could access the mysteries of the higher, and vice versa. They viewed all levels of being, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, as interdependent layers of a single reality. To them, healing was never merely physical. A disease in the body was often the shadow of an imbalance in thought or spirit. A misalignment in the aura could eventually crystallize as an ailment in the flesh. Thus, healing must occur on all levels. And when harmony is restored within, harmony echoes without. This principle also underlies many esoteric practices. Astrology is built upon the correspondence between planetary movement and human affairs. Alchemy reflects the transformation of base matter into gold as a metaphor for the inner purification of the soul. Kabbalah charts the tree of life as a map of both the cosmos and the psyche, chakras, though from a different lineage, show similar correspondences, where energy centers in the body reflect spiritual and psychological states. Whether through rituals, symbols, or archetypes, These systems seek to bridge the inner and outer, the above and below, the seen and unseen. And it doesn't stop at mystical systems. Modern science, too, has begun to echo these ancient insights. Holographic theory, for example, suggests that the entire universe may be encoded in each part of itself, just as each piece of a hologram contains the whole image. In biology, epigenetics shows us that environmental signals, the outer world, can directly influence gene expression, the inner world. Quantum physics reveals entanglement, particles separated by great distances, still mirroring each other's state. All of these are whispers of the same ancient truth. Nothing is separate. The implications of this principle reach into every facet of our personal journey. If the universe is mental, as the principle of mentalism declares, then the principle of correspondence becomes the operating manual for understanding how that mind reflects across dimensions. It gives us access to a secret map, one that allows the initiate to read the language of the universe across layers. So how do we apply this in everyday life? Let's begin with a simple but powerful practice: mirroring. When something in your reality upsets you, a betrayal, a failure, a limitation, pause and ask, what within me does this reflect? Not from a place of self-blame, but from self-inquiry. The universe is not punishing you. It is responding to you. Life echoes your inner frequency, not your wishes. For example, if someone continually disrespects your boundaries, the correspondence may lie in your own inner voice. Do you honor your needs? Do you express your truth? The external behavior is a symbolic representation of the internal lesson waiting to be reclaimed. This doesn't mean we are to blame for the actions of others, but it does mean that life always presents an opportunity for awakening through the mirror. And mirrors don't lie. They show us what we're ready to see, when we're ready to see it. Here's another example. Perhaps you're trying to manifest abundance, but consistently feel blocked. The principle of correspondence invites you to look inward. Are there beliefs rooted in lack? Were you raised to believe that money is evil, or that spiritual people must suffer to be pure? These imprints form an inner vibration, which then draws in outer reflections. The outer scarcity corresponds to the inner programming, and once you become aware of the correspondence, that's when the real transformation begins. Through tools like shadow work, journaling, meditation, and sacred ceremony, you begin to shift the inner state. And as the inner changes, the outer must follow. As within, so without. This is not spiritual cliché. It is metaphysical cause and effect. You see, the world is symbolic, not literal. A thunderstorm may be a message of cleansing. A recurring illness may signal emotional repression. The breakdown of an old relationship may correspond to the birth of a new identity. When we read life symbolically, we become mystics. Every experience becomes a glyph. Every person, a mirror. Every hardship, a teaching. This is the Hermetic way, to train the eye of the soul to see correspondence everywhere. In the Egyptian mysteries, the initiate would be taught to read the book of nature, not just books of parchment, but the living, scriptures written in tree rings, star patterns, animal migrations, and human drama. Nature did not separate the physical and the spiritual. The river was not just water, it was memory. The mountain, not just stone, but a symbol of inner stillness and unshakable truth. The sun, a mirror of the higher self, rising, radiating, and falling only to rise again. Today, we have forgotten how to read the sacred script beneath the ordinary. We live on the surface, but the Hermeticist dives into the depths. They walk through the marketplace of the world with a sacred eye, asking, what is this really telling me? Because the outer world, with all its apparent randomness, is anything but random. It is a living oracle, whispering in symbolic language. And if you learn to listen, truly listen, you will find that every event, every encounter, every breath is correspondence in motion. To truly live in alignment with the principle of correspondence is to walk through life as an alchemist of perception, one who no longer asks, "Why is this happening to me?" but instead whispers, "What is this trying to show me?" This shift in consciousness is revolutionary. It transforms victimhood into vision. It changes chaos into communication. It allows pain to become prophecy. The Hermetic initiate becomes fluent in the secret language of life, recognizing that everything, absolutely everything, is speaking. The question is, are you listening? We often miss the messages because we are too entangled with the form. We judge the outer, forgetful that the outer is but the echo of an inner vibration, belief, or lesson. When we react blindly, we break the chain of wisdom. But when we respond consciously, we become co-creators. Let's take this further. If the micro reflects the macro, then even the smallest acts are reflections of great cosmic principles. Washing your hands can become a ritual of energetic cleansing. Lighting a candle may symbolize the birth of inner clarity. A walk in the forest might mirror your realignment with Source. The sacred and the mundane are not separate. They correspond. This is what sacred living truly means. It's not about escaping the world, and it's about decoding it. Everything from a broken appliance to a repeating number pattern to an unexpected phone call is a glyph, an archetype, a reflection of what's happening within your energy field. Once you begin to see this, synchronicities will multiply. Why? Because now you're attuned to the universal feedback loop. Life no longer operates on autopilot. It becomes a conscious dialogue. And the more you recognize the mirrors, the faster your inner transformation accelerates. This is why the Hermetic axiom says, as within, so without, as above, so below, as the universe, so the soul. It is not metaphor, it is law. And this law is holographic in nature. Like a fractal, every part of reality contains the whole. You can study the entire universe in a single seed, just as you can glimpse the divine through your own inner landscape. This is why true mystics can live in solitude and still learn all there is to know, because the infinite is encoded in the intimate. But here lies the responsibility. If what is within reflects without, then the quality of your outer world is not arbitrary, it is sacred feedback. When your relationships are chaotic, what storm brews within you? When your path feels unclear, what inner fog are you refusing to face? When opportunities vanish, what belief of unworthiness might be silently shaping your field? These questions are not to shame, they are to awaken. And awakening is not always comfortable. To apply the principle of correspondence requires courage. You must be willing to see your shadow in the mirror of life. You must be ready to receive the truth about yourself, not just the convenient parts. But this is the key to liberation. Because once seen, the pattern can be changed. Once named, the fear begins to dissolve. Once owned, the story becomes medicine. And this is the great secret of Hermeticism, that nothing is static. All things are in motion. And when you change the inner pattern, the outer projection must change too. It is metaphysical law. As your vibration elevates, the mirrors shift. New people arrive. Old wounds find closure. Opportunities align like stars. What once seemed blocked now flows freely, not because the world has changed, but because you have. This is the magic of correspondence, transformation from the inside out, and it is available to anyone who dares to look beyond appearances and into the symbolic architecture of life. 2. Master the principle of correspondence is to reclaim your birthright as a symbolic being, a soul fluent in the metaphors of the cosmos. And nowhere is this more evident than in the domains of dreams, illness, and synchronicity. Let's begin with dreams. Most people treat dreams as irrelevant, random neural chatter. But for the Hermetic seeker, dreams are not merely unconscious. Fiction, they are encrypted messages. They are mirrors of the inner world, revealing emotional patterns, soul fragments, hidden desires, and unresolved wounds. A storm in a dream might reflect suppressed anger. A locked door might reveal a fear of the unknown. A recurring figure may symbolize a part of you asking to be seen. When you wake from a dream, ask not, "Was that real?" but "What in me is this trying to reflect?" Because the inner world always speaks first. And dreams are the nightly echo of our deepest spiritual landscape. But correspondence doesn't stop when we wake. It continues in the form of the body, our living temple, our most honest mirror. Every illness, every tension, every energetic block is a symbolic communication from the self to the self. The liver may store rage. The throat may tighten around unspoken truth. The heart may ache from years of grief never fully felt. And so the question becomes, can you listen to the body not as a mechanical failure, but as a sacred messenger? This is not to bypass medical care. It is to add a dimension of awareness. The ancients knew this. Hermetic healers would read the body like scripture, decoding each ailment as a glyph, a correspondence, a manifestation of something deeper. Louise Hay popularized a modern version of this with her work in metaphysical healing, but the roots go back to Egypt, to Greece, to the temples of Thoth and Imhotep, where spiritual purification and physical healing were seen as one and the same. To heal the body, one must often address the beliefs that birthed the imbalance. Which brings us to one of the most powerful correspondences of all: synchronicity. A synchronicity is not just a coincidence. It is an event that mirrors an inner state in a way that feels deeply meaningful. It is the outer world speaking the language of the soul, a sudden song lyric, a perfectly timed encounter, a repeated number or symbol that pierces through the noise. Carl Jung called it meaningful coincidence. But in Hermetic terms, it is the law of correspondence in action. As within, so without. Synchronicities are cosmic breadcrumbs, leading us back to the self. They are proof that the veil between spirit and matter is thinner than we imagine. They show us that we are not alone, that there is a field of intelligence responding to us, shaping itself according to our inner frequency. The more conscious we become, the more frequent and precise the synchronicities. Life becomes a conversation. But this requires presence, awareness, the ability to slow down and ask, why this? Why now? What is this reflecting about me? What invitation is hidden inside this event? And when this becomes your default lens, life transforms. The traffic jam becomes a nudge to pause. The breakup becomes a call to rediscover self-worth. The rejection becomes redirection. Everything is part of the spiritual curriculum. And so, correspondence is not just a law, it is a mystical art form. It's the art of seeing the sacred in the simple, of reading the lines between events, of understanding that nothing is isolated and nothing is accidental. All is part of the divine tapestry, woven not just by fate, but by frequency, your frequency. And here's the final key. As you change, the code changes. Your outer world rearranges itself in harmony with your inner upgrades. You'll notice new kinds of people, new doors, new feedback. Not because you forced reality, but because you shifted your point of resonance. Like a tuning fork, life responds to your vibration. So take nothing for granted. Pay attention to the symbols that surround you. Honor the whispers of the body. Decode the dreams. Follow the synchronicities. And trust that every moment is meaningful. Because once you see reality through the lens of correspondence, you will never walk through life the same again. You will see signs where others see noise. You will find answers in silence. You will speak with the universe and realize it has always been speaking with you. Living the principle of correspondence is not about memorizing a metaphysical law. It's about embodying it, making it real, breathing it into the way you observe, feel, and respond to the world around you. It begins the moment you shift your posture toward reality. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this reflecting within me? This single reframe transforms you from victim to mystic, from reactive to responsive, from disconnected to deeply embedded in the sacred pattern that governs all things. But how do we live this principle? When life feels chaotic, when things go wrong, that's precisely when it matters most. The principle of correspondence reminds us that chaos outside often mirrors confusion inside, that blocks in the external world often point to internal misalignments, that the people who trigger us may be carrying pieces of our shadow, reflecting aspects of self we haven't yet embraced or healed. When a project stalls, ask, is there hesitation within me? When a person disrespects you, ask, where am I still doubting my own worth? When doors close, ask, what belief or frequency am I radiating that might be aligned with limitation instead of abundance? This is not about blaming yourself. It's about reclaiming authorship. Realizing that life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. This principle empowers radical responsibility, but also radical freedom. Because if your inner world is the blueprint for the outer world, then you are never truly stuck. You can rewire your thoughts, reclaim your beliefs, recalibrate your emotions, and in doing so, shift the field around you. Everything is connected. Nothing is random. Once you see the outer as a mirror, you begin to clean the mirror, not smash it. You stop resisting what is and start alchemizing it. Let's look at this practically. In relationships, when someone triggers you, instead of reacting, pause and reflect. What does this mirror about me? Is it showing a fear of abandonment? A wound from childhood? A need for validation? If so, the situation becomes your teacher, not your enemy. In career or creativity, if you keep hitting resistance, ask, what belief is playing beneath the surface? Am I afraid to be seen? Do I doubt my value? Are there subconscious patterns creating sabotage? In health and the body, chronic issues often hold emotional roots. The principle of correspondence invites you to explore. What energy am I holding here? What am I afraid to express, release, or feel? Even food sensitivities and fatigue can be expressions of deeper imbalance. In abundance and finances, scarcity in your bank account may reflect scarcity in your mindset. Not just conscious thoughts, but inherited programs, ancestral fears, karmic imprints. The way you relate to money mirrors how you relate to energy, worth, and receiving. This is why spiritual work is practical. When you heal your beliefs, the world shifts. When you change your frequency, doors open. When you elevate your state, the mirror reflects your light. And this doesn't mean life becomes perfect. Storms will come, but you'll meet them differently. You'll read the winds, interpret the symbols. Walk through the storm with eyes open, asking what the experience is crafting within you. Here's an essential truth. Correspondence is not about control. It's about alignment. You don't control the whole world, but you do influence the field around you based on the field within you. You become a vibrational sculptor, shaping your path not through force but through coherence. So how do you strengthen this alignment? Daily reflection. Journal. What life is showing you. Look for patterns. What keeps repeating? What themes are present in your dreams, emotions, conversations? Shadow integration. Embrace the parts of you that show up through others. When someone bothers you, ask, is there a part of me I'm rejecting? This is where deep healing begins. Energetic hygiene. Notice the environments you enter, the people you spend time with, the content you consume. Everything you allow in becomes part of your internal pattern. Meditation and stillness. This is how you clear the fog and listen to the symbolic language of the universe. The more still your inner world, the more clearly you'll perceive the signs. And most importantly, trust the mirror. Life is always teaching. The people you meet, the books that fall off the shelf, the messages you overhear in cafes, all can be correspondence. Everything can be sacred. As you deepen into this path, you begin to live like a mystic in the modern world, decoding reality like a manuscript from the divine. You stop waiting for signs and realize you are the sign. You stop fearing the unknown and see it as your reflection in the making. The principle of correspondence is the key to gnosis. to knowing thyself through the lens of the cosmos, to awakening not just intellectually, but energetically, to realizing that the stars, the body, the dream, and the stranger on the street are all speaking the same truth, your truth. So walk slowly, observe everything, ask deeper questions, and know this: as within, so without, as above, so below. As the soul, so the story, and thus you become the bridge between all worlds. If this message resonated with you, share this with someone who's beginning to see the signs, and if you're walking the Hermetic path, or simply learning to read the sacred patterns beneath the surface of life, subscribe to Mystic Atlas for more transmissions like this one. Here we decode the symbols, we walk between the worlds, and we remember what the ancients never forgot. Nothing is separate, everything speaks. See you in the next journey.